I believe that we are hot mics.
We are.
We are. Yeah. You good to go?
Good to go.
All right. Take it away.
Cool, yeah. Welcome everyone back to Esports Wales, where we are having our second event of the year with our complete round robin. Last time it was a feisty bit of competition, so this time we're looking for some feistier competition as some of the teams have changed, some of the teams are back and looking hungrier than ever, and I am joined by new faces as well. Luke, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Yeah, I'm Luke, or Enix, if you prefer. Thank you very much, Esports Wales, for having me. Looking forward to casting some fun League of Legends tonight. Yeah, it should be a good one.
And that's good news for you then, because hopefully on the docket, looking at the teams that we have here, the Goats accompanied by the Robins, we are pretty much in for a match, right? We've been looking at the OP.GGs that we've rustled together so far, and we are both fairly excited because there's a bit of a difference in terms of player level, but in terms of competency, it's all still there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been doing a little bit of digging. I'm not the most well versed in the previous split of the Esports Wales League of Legends division, but having done some digging, we definitely have some very interesting matchups on the docket for today, as you said. The team that we're going to be looking at tonight, I'm going to be keeping the closest eye on, is going to be the Artists, the reigning champions, and having not dropped a game in the first season, it'll be interesting to see if they can continue that trend this evening.
Yeah, and of course they're the next game after this one. And speaking of the previous standings there as well, the Robins and the Goats did not finish too far up the standings. So in both of these cases, it's another situation where they're really looking to get off on the best foot. So only one of these teams, of course, it's the best one, could come out with that best foot forward. So if they are wanting to be on the top half of the standings this time, it has to start here naturally in game one.
Yeah, definitely. Game one, always really important in any kind of split, honestly. Make your statement, make yourself known, give other teams a reason to fear you. And it's going to be interesting to see what the teams are going to show us tonight. I mean, are we going to see anyone come out swinging? Are we going to see stomps either way?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's going to be just an interesting one to keep an eye on and have a look at.
for sure, for sure. So perhaps here is where we can talk about the patch, right? Because it's been a little while since the last Welsh Masters. So we're now on 13-13. There's been a long pro season so far on 13-11, at least at home in the LEC. So how much of the current meta do you think, or at least solo queue meta, even if it's not competitive meta, do you think we're going to be seeing for these games?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one because if you look at solo queue meta, you're seeing a lot of Rek'Sai, a lot of
Yeah.
Ivern, a lot of Rel, specifically around like the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be really interesting to see if any of that bleeds over, especially with Rel and Ivern now kind of coming a lot more like back into playability with bugs that have been on those champions previously
Mm-hmm.
being fixed. Um, so yeah, we're gonna be looking a lot towards that. I'm also curious if we're gonna see any Zeri because, as everybody knows, Zeri Lulu, Zeri Yumi, arguably one of the
Yes.
more powerful lane combinations for the bot lane.
And I love that you bring up the supports there as well, because as a support player, I've been keeping a close eye on what's been going on there.
Mm.
And things like the Milio Yumi being hotly contested 13-11, not seeing the most detrimental nerfs, I don't feel like, between 13-11 and 13-13. And of course, the support item changes overall have been pretty healthy for them. Moonstone is, in fact, better for Milio on this patch than it is 13-11 as well. So, me personally, I'm going to be keeping my eye to see if support is more personalized or definitely more general.
A little bit of hidden tech that I'm not sure if we will see tonight, but I've
Uh-huh.
been seeing it kicking around a little bit more in a higher elo solo queue. Milio Aphelios as a lane combination.
Yeah.
So Aphelios, typically, he's kind of, I've heard him described by a lot of people as like the Kassadin of bot lane, right?
Right.
Um,
Hit
he takes a
16.
while to scale, but once he scales, he is pretty much unstoppable with that Inferno, with the red-white team fights delight. And if you pair him with Emilio, you get so much extra damage in the early game that it actually doesn't matter that you're basically Kassadin.
Yeah, it just comes online in the lane. You don't have to wait for the scaling part of Aphelios. You just get to start scaled up because Milio is partnered with him.
Yeah, and I mean, the utility and healing that Milio provides to a team comp as well is pretty damn obnoxious. We are going to roll into draft here.
Yeah, so we can keep our eyes peeled at least for the Milio, maybe some of the things like the Aphelios. I think in general, it's fair to say it's been a bot-centric meta so far, so I guess depending on where these teams' strength of players are as the Milio goes away, and where they think they want to play towards, whether it's going to be they follow the trend or they follow where they have strong side players.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good way to think about draft. I've heard this discussed a lot on the LCS broadcast and whatever. It's like you have draft bucks, right? You can spend your draft bucks to get a good matchup in one lane, but it means you're not going to be able to get as good of a matchup in another lane. So we see an early K'Sante.
And that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Really, really powerful flex pick is K'Sante if your top laner and mid laner can both pilot it.
Yeah, of course, he's just kind of that powerful. I feel like that you can run him fairly happily blind mid or top, and of course, like you say, being flexible, he doesn't have to be so blind. Other champions you mentioned so far on the patch, Rek'Sai instantly locked here as well. Janna, reply to Nautilus, I'm not 100% convinced on, but catch us up because these drafts are coming in quite quick.
Yeah, so we see K'Sante, Rek'Sai, Nautilus for the GOATs. Rek'Sai, going to be interesting to see whether they decide to go for more of this like assassin-y high damage build, which I think a lot of people are picking up in solo queue. Rek'Sai has had a bit of a base AD nerf on this patch. So maybe going to be more of a bruiser build. The Nautilus, the K'Sante, both really, really solid, really good frontline. So it's going to be interesting to see what carries they actually pair with this, with this kind of utility frontline group that they've got for themselves. Janna and Amumu Darius, though, really like the engage, especially when it's backed up by a Sivir on the hunt,
I like that.
boosted by the Janna passive. If they can get in, get that lockdown, and let the ricochets bounce through, it could be a really powerful team fight. And the LeBlanc, just to top it off, is really nice to see as well.
Yeah, right. Potentially going to go towards Stormrazor as well, which is probably one of the other highlights of this patch that pretty much everyone's aware on, unless you've been under some Mountain Drake rock. The amount of wave clear that this team currently has just in their Sivir and LeBlanc, assuming she goes static, is quite threatening, right? And I can't really see Rek'Sai, Syndra, Draven being able to get under those towers, right? It's going to lean a lot into Nautilus. It's going to lean a lot into K'Sante getting there. But of course, the Janna can do a fantastic job of putting up wind walls in effect. So it could be difficult here, I think, getting in under this composition. Whether it beats the Mount, what do you think?
I mean, you have to think about it, because if the K'Sante is able to grab the Sivir, which I think is going to be his target, either the Sivir or the LeBlanc. I mean, even if you can isolate the Amumu, right? If you can drag him away, he only gets that Curse of the Sad Mummy onto one person. It's a massive team fight cooldown that's just not being used. But I really like the R5 LeBlanc.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest. I've seen a lot of teams starting to take Poppy as a counter to these high dash static shiv abusing champions, which makes a lot of sense. You got the dash preventing W.
Yep.
But no, R5 LeBlanc, really, really nice. Lots of poke, lots of wave clear. And it means that even if the GOATs get ahead, they're going to find sieging really difficult.
100%. And I'm going to tee up here the LeBlanc. An old mate of mine, Harry, is pretty healthy at Plat 1. You can't knock that at all. Has done great work for EsportsWales, representing. So for me, I'm excited to cast him. I messaged him earlier, and he did say that they're going to test to see if the GOATs are in fact the GOATs, was their approach to this game. So him on what I know is Comfort Champion with the LeBlanc as well. I'm now a bit jittery.
Yeah, I mean, looking down at the OPGGs, a lot of LeBlanc in his recent match history, so obviously very, very comfortable on the champion. And with the champion in such a good place at the moment, it's going to be interesting to see how he can execute it. I mean, the Draven, definitely a target that you can look to assassinate. But I'm not 100% sure who wins that lane matchup. I do quite like the Syndra side of this mid lane. Just purely because you have the Scatter the Weak to prevent any kind of aggression coming forward from the dashes so that LeBlanc can't get in range to land those chains.
Yeah, scatter into the face of a distortion. Of course, if you set up your orb quite nicely or you hold a W, force a will, troublesome for LeBlanc, so it is going to come down pretty much to whether Bear Mustard can bear down and kind of beat and bully Harry out of this lane, which post-static might just not be a factor, and LeBlanc's going to look to roam, and then, of course, Draven Cassante could be in trouble this entire time, which is why I think I quite like the Rek'Sai here. She's going to be looking pretty healthy with, of course, the tunnel vision is going to make sure that you can spot out maybe some early roams if you're covering the right lane. But really, for me, LeBlanc's going to struggle, I think, in the side lanes trying to find some of those picks without hard CC is my issue. So unless LeBlanc's able to pair up nicely with that Amumu, I'm a little bit concerned about the early game here for the Robins.
So I'm gonna do my favorite thing. Because it always makes my co-caster a little bit, let's sweat a little bit, and I love doing it because of that reason and that reason alone.
I'm already sweating, so it's fine. Go for
Turn off the nameplates.
Okay.
Turn off the team names. Which of these drafts do you prefer?
Ooh. I think, as much as I love the approach of Janna Siva into Nautilus Draven, I think just the high potency of Syndra Cassante Rek'Sai topside, regardless of whether you're negating Draven Nautilus, I have to go with Goats.
Okay, that's that. I mean, I would probably agree. I think being the aggressors is always the easiest. Always the easiest, kind of style of comp to execute. You know, if you're not playing scaling, playing aggression is a lot easier to execute on than playing to kite back. And I think the Janna Sivir, whilst it can go forward, especially with the Amumu, it does give you a lot of agency to be able to kite back in these fights, which if they're able to execute on, brilliant, because Rek'Sai, Syndra blow all their cooldowns. They then can't do anything. And you can then turn around and say, hey, you have no abilities left. We're just going to walk up and kill you. But it'll be interesting to see if they can execute on that and play that out in the later stages of this game.
Yeah, so then perhaps...
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. "30 seconds until minions spawn.
Let me give you a hug.
Minions have spawned.
Keep my eyes peeled on the Discord should we get any information about that one. But for now, I think we can just quite happily talk about this early game because it's going to be perhaps the most important factor, right? We already highlighted one of the teams wants to scale, one of them wants to play early and aggressive. So tracking these junglers is the best place to start to see how that's going.
As we are going to dive back in.
Better duck.
Face me! Fight!
Better duck.
Rek'Sai starting to power up, and with the Iron Spike Whip there in inventory.
Kia walks into it, but it's Goma Boy picking up the double, so you'll take that as a Goats fan.
Yeah, double kill on to the Draven. Really, really big gold swing over to the Goats. And Kia, have we seen him miss a hook yet? I honestly, it
the
feels
first
like
one, and that was it, I think. Oh no, not even the first one, because it was the one that got the flash out for Mumi, right? So there was one in the lane that was just a bit short, but
yeah.
Other than that, each one has found a Janna or a Sivir.
Yeah, they have been insane. Another fight here.
Well, we'll call it a fight, really. It's a Mumu putting the sad in the sad mummy, really.
It's more of an assassination than a fight at that point.
Group slaughter. Ninja Yoshi here spies out Harry on the tremor sense, is gonna get chained and stunned up, knocked up. The camera is gonna take us all the way up to top lane as we have some auto attacks flying both ways. Engagement here, Teddy with the 5 strikes, and that's yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, that bleed, that Darius, that Triforce. Goma Boy flashing forward though.
Flashed and aside, spell shield not of any use, and just 4 or 5 auto attacks for Mr. Moon sees him eclipsed. And that's not even in Draven's inventory.
Yeah, not yet. I imagine that will come through later, but oof.
Oof, indeed. So let's, if we have a breath of action or not, because we haven't
going to
knock out for Sport Psych here. Ninja Yoshi getting the crunch with the Conqueror and a power drive in the map. So camera pans. Yeah. Okay. Perhaps now then. Since we've had our second helping of action for the breath in the sentence, we can begin to look at the state of the game, right? So the gold lead now sufficiently in favour of the Goats. They have achieved their early game plan in terms of their composition. Everyone seems to be online apart from this Cassante, so what happens from here?
I mean, from here, I think you just take every objective. Triforce just picked up by the Draven. He is now going to be 3-shotting the squishies on the side of the Robins. We saw what happened when he flashes on Mr. Moon in the bot lane, as we have another fight going on.
Yeah, Harry here got the wrong side of the wall, but psych, it was the clone. I bet you weren't fooled like me. So he's able to get away from that once Psych invested in the ult to make sure that happens. Oh,
that's
off camera. There's a dead Sivir. I guess Rek'Sai was just farming bot lane, as you say, does that. And speaking of doing that, he lands the
hooks are too clean.
Investment, and yet able to trade it back with the guillotine. It's Serotonin here, who's going to be a little bit anxious on the back end of that TP. Arrives, doesn't die at least, so that one did not suck. But again, just 1-for-1 exchanges. Draven here, the real beneficiary, having a free lane bot.
Yeah, this Draven is almost completely out of control, and if there wasn't a 4-on-1 Darius on the side of the Robins, this game would be as good as over, for want of a better phrase. Goma Boy, though, I don't think you could take a 1v3. You're strong, my friend, but you're not that strong.
Yeah, I get wanting it, but I don't know if he needs it, right? The team is there, but not really there, so yeah.
What's the point in taking the risk?
Yeah, he should be happy 5-1. Has that Triforce now complete as well. Definitely looking on the healthier side of things if he wasn't already. Can I quickly mention, I think the Helia here for Janna. Not too sure if that would be my item of choice.
I actually really like the Helia.
You really like it? Okay.
I think Helia is... I mean, when it first came out, it was kind of broken.
Yes.
And I may or may not have done some Seraphine mid lane abuse.
Want of Life Zyra, that was my one.
Yeah, Seraphine mid with Helia was not balanced.
No, I
at
can't
all.
imagine.
Not
Seraphine
in the
doesn't tend
slightest.
to make most things balanced.
Yeah, it
in
was
a
it was
history.
not balanced in the slightest. But since the item's had a few nerfs, it is still strong.
Yep.
But you have to be playing the right kind of champion for it. And I think Janna with that ultimate with those shields is the perfect kind of champion, because I don't know if you will have seen it in the patch notes, but they removed the Font of Life interaction with Helia. So
Yes.
Font of Life now no longer procs echoes of Helia, but with the amount of healing the Monsoon can output, Janna, I think, is still one of the perfect champions to buy on. Oh, look,
Speaking of perfect, we're going to have to start the fight unperfectly here for the Robins, who, because he's going to go down, had to flash to invest again the ultimate, but really it's already started with the double kill here for the Draven. He's looking for more. Taken away the triple ninja, Yoshi getting a slice of the cake of the Robins. It's Harry having to get away the two of them as well. The guillotine comes back to trade a couple through, and it's a shutdown on the Draven. A brothers war in the bottom side of the map, but it is still looking like a Drake going to the favor. Oh, Harry here dodging away from the hook this time, able to get another one back. So the Robins keeping it competitive in the end, but still a victory for the Goats.
Yeah, but very, very important for the Robins to be finding these exit kills, evening the fight up at 3-3. You know, important gold in the back pockets. Yes, the gold lead is now 6,000. Yes, you are now staring down Ocean Soul Point, but you know, getting these couple of extra kills here and there, get you to your item spikes slightly sooner. We're nearly seeing 2 items coming out for all members of the Robins now. And if they can get to these power spikes before the next fight, which I imagine will be in 5 minutes' time when the Ocean Soul spawns, they could look to contest them with a very, very fed Darius. Could look to potentially turn that fight.
Yeah, and this Darius is about as closely fed as this Draven is, right? Aside from the stacks, of course, right? So
yeah,
getting that shut down there for the Darius as well is going to net some of that gap back as the Sterix and a half looking towards, I think. I'm assuming there's going to be a Gargoyle's plate with the Aegis there. So, like you say, you do have win conditions alive for the Robins, and of course the later it goes, we highlighted this composition tends to do to the later, right? Kiting back with that Sivir, getting close to that second item. We've already mentioned the potential of the Helia with the AoE Monsoon can definitely keep a lot of those members afloat. So if you're able to let Rek'Sai into that backline but keeping members alive, you're pretty happy. Bear hit, taking the worst of a trade against Harry, who also got a shutdown, so he's looking pretty healthy with his items too. So Robins have some time to play around with here. TP available on the bot side as well, should something happen up at this Baron. It's getting tense.
Yeah, and I think with the teleports, as you mentioned, it's going to be a case of who blinks first. Harry dives forward.
Speaking of tense, Harry dives forward and is unable to secure the kill. I think it was just a sigil mark away from getting that one. Was that level 5 or level 7 is obscured by the name, but flexed over that one. Scatter plus the power of will is enough to exert over Harry there. Unfortunate going forward, but I felt like, I don't know, I trusted him to have had that, so I would love to see a replay, see if that goes wrong, but
yeah, no, really, really unfortunate there under the tower. I think maybe one skill shot just went wide, and that will have been what caused that. On the topic of the LeBlanc, though, I am very, very intrigued that Harry is not elected to go for the Tactic Shiv.
I'm intrigued as well, considering it might be quite useful in a time where Baron could be taken, which means that inhibs could be broken, and that extra wave clear could come a lot in handy. As well, pushing in the side here, you see that minion wave on the bottom corner of the minimap. Perhaps some leniency lost or some flexibility for the LeBlanc here, side laning. Have to maybe see if we can ask him some questions at the end, if he'd be willing to answer on his options, see whether it pays off or not, because of course they still have a chance when this one is not over yet, but Kia looking to make it the opposite of that, gets a hook here onto Lokoi, who wants to be alive as this Baron is also alive.
Yeah, both teams posturing around this, and it's really difficult to actually set up for this as the Goats. Yes, the river is completely dark, but the Scuttle Crab Shrine belonging to the Robins means that you can't really go all in onto this Baron. just because they will know you're there. And if they know you're not on the Baron, thanks to the Scuttle Crab Shrine, they know not to walk forward into the darkness. So it's a really difficult situation to play out, as we're going to see Tedyed looking for some damage.
Yeah, looking for some damage. He has the follow-up here, is the Monsoon, knocking away members. Tedyed flashing forward, finds the mark onto the Draven, cleanse away from the stacks of Darius. Guillotine spent as well. Mr. Moon coming in, TP from Harry arriving, but it is a knockdown onto Kea. It's a knockdown on the Nautilus and the Cassante, and it is a fight for the Robins.
Yeah, and meanwhile we see the LeBlanc teleport actually going on cooldown, so Harry trying to channel that one, being interrupted by Bear, but a massive fight for the side of the Robins, getting the Darius a double kill. Rek'Sai looking to stop this Baron, but I don't know if he can.
I don't know if he can, but he might be able to smite it should he find an avenue here into the pit. Some of these members are low. If he's able to execute here Lacorbi, he might at least put it better than a 50-50. He's fishing with those pellets, but it is Tedyed here looking for something. Has Goma Boy now to back him up. Sports Psych is looking low. Flash forward for Ninja Yoshi straight onto the smite. He is dead. The Robins could be in danger. Unstoppable Rek'Sai finds his way into the fight, and it's Goma Boy looking to clean it up. Cleans up Tedyed with the shutdown. Is able to keep this Baron low, and unless Ajana can land a miracle whirlwind here, this should be it. I'm holding my breath now. Okay, release too late. Secured there by Goma Boy, and it is a table turning around again and again. And we don't get a chance to breathe. Sports Psych doesn't get a chance to back either. That's a kill there for the Syndra as well as the Baron. Over to Goats.
Yeah, if you're Lacorbi in that situation, that feels horrible. It's very much a record scratch pan into the movie. Hey, yeah, that's me.
That's me.
I bet you're wondering how I got here. And coming out on the worst end of that trade, really nicely played by Ninja Yoshi to kite around the edge of the pit, keeping Tedyed away from the Baron, forcing the other members of the Robins incredibly low, and allowing for his AD carry to join him and find the fight.
Find the fight indeed, and they found the Baron, and now they're fighting the Ocean Soul, which is going to put maybe one more nail in the coffin here of Robins. They've been working some fair miracles so far, or at least half miracles, to keep this one competitive longer than perhaps it could have, considering some of the leads and how fed the Draven is. Looking at him there, 9-2, so whilst it might not be on longer, I do have a lot of faith in the Robins here. As I say it, then casting Curse of a Sentry, Mr. Moon here, able to spell shield the Dredge line, but it's not going to be enough to prevent the flash forward from the rest of the members here. Goma coming in as well. The hooks are off cooldown and on their marks, and as two members dead of the Robins, this miracle just got shy of biblical.
Ia just does not miss. Almost a Herculean, that's how you say that word.
That's the
Herculean task now for the Robins, staring down an Ocean Soul and a 10,000 gold deficit. Baron buff still being worn by the Goats as well, and they really are living up to that name in this game 1.
Yeah, and it's quite hard to complete a Herculean task against someone that rhymes with Homer. Boy down there in that bot lane is really 10-2, looking like some kind of Iliadic hero at the moment, and it is going to be a case of Ajax, but it's not Jax, but Darius in the top lane, having to do everything that he can. Last time we saw him flash forward straight onto that Draven, get that guillotine in, did almost kill Goma Boy, found a chink in that armor, that Achilles heel, and they're going to have to work very hard to make sure that that lands this time.
Yeah, I mean, if you are on the Robins, your only real hope of carrying these fights is Tedyed. Another hook just missing. Kia not quite able to find his mark there.
Oh my god, one cast of the Whirling Death on Sports Psych is at least a third of his health, and that does execute damage, so from half that would have killed him if the second one maybe hit, which is kind of horrifying to think about, plus the Collector, don't forget.
Yeah, Draven is fun to play against when he gets ahead, I promise.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've had plenty of fun playing against fed Dravens.
I still have flashbacks about that champion. But it is all on Tedyed. He is going to stick to the top lane, trying to clear these waves up, trying to get himself a little bit more gold, a little bit more XP. And if he can come to these fights with the level 16, it is going to potentially be massive. I don't know how close he is, but he obviously feels he's got the time to clear away. They're not going to be able to defend the mid lane inhib anyway, so you might as well let it fall. If it gives you even half of a chance at winning the next team fight with your Darius. 3 items completed on the Darius, but 4 for the Draven, and he is terrifying.
I don't hate how the Robins are approaching this one though, as terrifying as the Draven is. They're doing a pretty effective job here of turtling, conceding the inhibitor where it's appropriate, gathering here around this wave so that no one's really caught out. They've been able to dodge so far, but that scatter is going to cause a monsoon. And that's one cooldown blown, but so far, as I had been saying, with that exception, done a fairly good job of chipping, poking, harassing, but also staying safe from those hooks, because a couple have gone wide the last couple of times.
Yeah, but even though they've managed to force out the monsoon, what can they force now that that cooldown has been burned? Janna, a lot of ability haste picked up already, so you shouldn't expect that to be off cooldown for too long, already a third of the way through, as another tornado lands, and Lakowi almost taken off the map.
Yeah, Whirling Death spent as well as Power of Will. So cooldown's burnt here in force of the siege that we mentioned might be difficult, but the hook lands here this time. Mr. Moon is just going to get just about eviscerated in the backside. The Corway is getting in, he's getting airborne, and he can't get the sad money off, but it is now up to Ted. Yes, he's going to get the shields and the heals from the Hylia, but it is not enough, and that could be and should be it. The rest of the members are diving forward. Triple kill here for the Rek'Sai, and that is the final cry, I think, here for the Goats. They're going to go from something to bad as knock down the Nexus, then looking to knock down Harry as well, not being able to distort back to the fountain. Oh, he's looking for the shutdown not to go over, but he does in fact find it, but it is too late because the Nexus has gone the second later, and it's the Goats peaking triumph over the Robins for our game one.
Yeah, Harry may not be able to take the game, but at least he is able to take away part of Goma Boy's KDA.
Yeah.
The small victories is what we're gonna say for that one. Got to take the small victories where you can get them. What a bloodbath for a game one.
What was that total? Like 43 kills?
43 kills in 30 minutes of gameplay. Love that.
We do love that.
For it.
And to be fair, it didn't feel... Yes, it was favoured, but it didn't feel one-sided, which is a good start, I feel like, for both of the teams coming into it. That they have room to grow, but also have good showing, good footing. As we mentioned, coming into this game, that's really what you want to see from them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you say, there's positives to take for both teams. The top side of the Robins, really, really impressive.
Yeah.
It looked real good. I was quite surprised that the Darius managed to get such a big early advantage. But yeah, you've got to tighten up that bot lane if you want a little bit of success. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible until it was. The Draven got when the enemy Draven is flashing on your Sivir and 5-shotting her.
Yeah.
That's when you got a problem.
Yeah, and it's a shame, right? Because it did look afloat, and especially that early trade, right? They were able to get a little bit of like maybe 50, 100 health advantage.
They were winning the early trades,
right?
Yeah.
And it was Nautilus picking up those double kills, but it was just incessant hooks and that kind of scrappiness, right? We saw those split 1v1s, right? And you can't really blame a Sivir for not being able to match a Draven past getting a collector, right? So, yes, good luck for the bot lane. I like the approach in the draft, and it did look healthy, but of course, Draven, kind of inevitably as being the team's win condition, but many spinning axe stroke nails into that Sivir blesser.
Yeah, Sivir not having a fun time in that lane. The mid lane, I want to touch on the mid laners as well, because I feel like we didn't really speak about the mid lane that much, like in the cast. Because there wasn't really much between them. You know, it felt like a really, really close, really, really cagey matchup. Almost played like a pair of control mages. Obviously, Syndra kind of is. LeBlanc definitely more on the assassin end, but, you know, potentially first game of the split nerves. Who knows? But I want to see, if you're going to continue picking LeBlanc and these more like aggressive champions, I would quite like to see a bit more... look for a few more plays. Be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, there was a fair bit of tit for tat in the lane, but like you say, right, it didn't come to anything. Maybe an ult spent for an ult, right? But yeah, right, there wasn't really a lot of examples where I could say the LeBlanc or the Syndra went into a side lane and changed the play, right? There was decent scatter the weeks, there were decent chains, there was that one kill in that bot side where Harry maybe felt forced to do something, right? But like you say, maybe that's looking a little too late. Where there was definitely opportunity with a pushed up Draven that you could look for something. Maybe you could look at the items. Maybe that's an issue. Maybe it wasn't with the static. I'm not really the person to answer that question.
I don't think a static shiv makes a difference in this game.
Okay.
I really don't think buying a static shiv makes a difference, especially when you're defending into a Baron and the minions all have 7 million magic resist.
Yeah, that's fair. All right then. I feel like then if we are fairly confident with how that one wrapped up. We can look ahead to our next game on the schedule, and I'm just going to check before I get it wrong, which I am.
I have
liable
it
to
up
do
right
so.
in front
You
of
have
me.
it up. Swans versus Artists.
Yes,
confirmed?
Swans
Yeah.
versus Artists.
Perfect. So Swans, we did have a little chat about saying that perhaps they were the bad boys of the league, maybe the favorites as well, looking at their roster. So they're definitely ones that you can't not have your eye on. And the Artists, of course, previous top cut or winners, in fact, looking to make a return. I can't remember if there are any changes to the roster, but this one is for sure exciting. So if you're happy to toss to a break, we can then talk about this matchup the other side.
Yeah, no, more than works for me.
Perfect. So you guys stick around. We'll bring all of the action for game 2 here, and it is sure to be a good one. We'll see you in a second.
See you in a minute.
every Sports Championship here with our teams that we had hyped up just before the break, Swans and the Artists. And of course, I'm Britannia, and once again, I'm joined by Enix. So, welcome back, everybody. We're just ahead of this game, and we're just breaking down some of these players before we get into this one. Talk me through it, because you're excited.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, looking at the OPGGs that we've got in front of us, this game is going to be promising some fireworks. I'm just looking down at champions we might be seeing, and we spoke about the Zeri before game one. She may be making an appearance here. I notice both of the AD carries are Zeri enjoyers. And I mean, at the moment, who isn't, right? Champion has been incredibly strong for a long, long time. But some of the other champions that we are seeing is quite interesting. I'm seeing a lot of Rengar, a lot of Kha'Zix in some of the OPGGs. Akali is another one of the prominent figures. Fiora, Camille, Ari, all of these champions that want to throw down, that want to fight, and want to give some skill expression. And yeah, I can't wait.
So, are we expecting this to be more or less bloody than the lower ranked game? Do you reckon?
I want to say more, just purely from looking at the OPGGs and seeing the kinds of champions that might make an appearance. But I feel like actually this one may be dialed back a little bit. This one might be a bit more methodical, a little bit slower, a bit more of a slow burner, if you will. You know, build up, tease us a little bit in the mid game with a couple of close fights before we see all-out 5v5 brawls around the Baron in the late game.
So now that you've said all out, you've jinxed it, and it's going to be a K'Sante as well. So yeah, perhaps this, speaking of K'Sante, is a good question to ask, because these teams are probably going to be closer, in closer attention, I mean, to the meta and such. Are we expecting more of these solo queue style picks with like Akali and such, more leaning towards they come with the Camille and things, or do you think this one's going to be closer to the 13-13 standard?
Well, I guess it kind of depends on what the teams are feeling like, to be honest. You know, I mean, there might be a player who wants to make a statement, who wants to stand up and show, like, just show what they can do and say, like, yeah, okay, like if you're on the Artist, you know, they might be thinking, oh, well, we went undefeated last season. We're going to have a statement first game to prove that we can do the exact same thing again and go undefeated again. So, you know, maybe someone slams down, I don't know, maybe Worship slams Rengar. Maybe we see an Akali come through. I don't know. But yeah, I'm interested to see which of these teams decides, you know what, let's make a statement. Let's pull out the big guns week one.
Right, and it's like almost the best format for it, because it's single round robin, best of one. There is only 6 games, I think, so there's 7 teams or such in the tournament, 6 teams in the tournament. Each of these games is like exceptionally important, and therefore even more important when it comes to like best foot forward, right? As we mentioned in the previous game. And of course, as well, there is a prize pool here at stake. And if both of these teams are vying for first, there's a pretty significant pool. It's like 35 quid each, which for a Monday's work is pretty, you know, all right for what is essentially a hobby as well. Second place, still 25. You're happy with. It's a quite generous prize pool here from EsportsWales. So, like, both of these teams, not only do they want bragging rights, basically, and as we said, the Artists won last time. They want to be able to do that again, even if they drop a game doing it. And of course, the Swans, I mentioned before the break, are perhaps the hungriest team here, the most loud team here. It's definitely up to the players, I think, to step up and see who can make the biggest splash.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like you say, right? These best of ones, it is only single round robin. You will only play maybe 5-6 games if there are tiebreakers. It is really important to get the wins on the board early to get yourselves above the other teams that you're going to be scrapping with. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what these teams can bring, what these teams can do. And as we've touched on, I mean, the Artists defending their crown, it's going to be a big statement from the Swans if they are able to take down the Artists game one.
100%, right? Because that's basically the biggest statement I feel like you can make. I think what I had heard coming into today is that the Swans are kind of the team to look at, despite the fact that the artists aren't defending their title as such. So really, this game is kind of settling those pre-tournament expectations. One of these teams is going to win and look better out of this game, whether it was a convincing win or not, right? That's what I kind of love about this best of one format, is that this could be bloody. This could be curveball after curveball in draft, in game. But at the end of the day, it's whoever comes out on top because of that that's going to look better and probably be on the high rise towards first place.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can take a lot of momentum out of a single game, and yeah, getting a win over the defending champions or getting a win as the defending champions is going to feel really, really good.
Really, really good indeed. And as we are close to draft, perhaps then we can start to gear ourselves towards that. So say you are on red side here as the artists. What is it panning these OP.GGs that you're fearing? Maybe what are your kind of expectations for bans?
I mean, there are a lot. When I look down these OPGGs, there are. I don't want to necessarily say one tricks.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of champions that you can see that some of these players definitely prefer over others.
Yeah, high proficiencies.
Yeah, exactly.
High
like
ponies.
100%. When you can play one champion in a role to a very high level, typically a lot of those skills are transferable. So you would imagine that a lot of these players can execute at a very high level on a lot of their champions. But for me, I am terrified of the Akali.
Okay.
I am terrified of the Akali coming out of the artists because that champion, when it gets ahead, it just doesn't look balanced at any point. And it can pretty much solo win team fights. Like you can get 1, 2 really, really quick assassinations, shroud yourself, and then get another one, and you just kill things.
Yeah. Which is horrifying to think that she's like one of the most nerfed additions of a champion in like League history. That she, as you say, looks unfair. Oh, and
yeah, first ban. Good. That makes me happy. Milio going to be taken away as well as an interesting one.
That's a pity because I like his spell names, so I won't be able to drop those.
I was going to say I'll give you 5 points.
I will wait for you to be better.
All of them. Oh Christ.
All of them, passive included.
Oh, and now that's cheating. I was just going to say snuggly. I don't know if you call that bit of the cast. I still think about it walking home. Dagda saying snuggly in the Irish accent. Gorgeous. But anyway, right, these bands are coming through. Milio, pretty standard. You had mentioned the Camille. You had also mentioned the Ari, I think. Akali, as you mentioned, you feared. So did everyone else. That one gone. Rengar, another one of the ones you named. Fiora, I think also did you bring up. So far.
Interesting that we see a first pick Mordekaiser.
This I could not have predicted.
No, I don't think anyone could have. First pick Mordekaiser is interesting. Typically that's used as a counter. But I guess you can flex it between top and mid. It does have applications in both of these lanes. The Xayah pick, if it is locked, is very, very solid.
Part of me is so concerned that this Mordekaiser is going like outside of the lanes. That's what horrifies me. If you're that like confident to blind it, I'm beginning to sweat. But I on the other side, right? If that Xayah was locked, I think we're having a little bit of issue. Both of us on our end seeing the draft, or is it just me? Yeah.
Wait. I'm just thinking with the early Mordekaiser. Is that more? Because I remember this used to be a thing when the rework came in. You know, like after we finished having bot lane Mordekaiser who could get a pet dragon, we got this Mordekaiser rework. Could it be Mordekaiser jungle? Is there a chance?
Are you certain?
I don't think there is. Now we see a Sejuani, but
Sejuani can top.
Indulge me for a minute. Indulge me for a minute.
I'm indulging it because it crosses my mind as well.
Yeah.
Oh my god, we got the orn we asked for. That's so nice of them.
Yay, we can get ornaments for this game. We're not going to see a Molten Edge though, because Xayah's probably going to go Quick Blades. Does tend to be her best item. Kassadin is an interesting one.
It's like Aphelios without the Milio.
Yeah, we spoke about Kassadin or bot lane Kassadin
Yeah.
in at
It's
the top
like
of the day.
exactly the same, just melee, and you have to actually hit level 16.
And he builds magic damage, not physical, and he doesn't get the chance to have a Milio partnering him in lane. Instead, he's got a Maokai potentially
Yeah.
making an appearance.
And goodness knows how many saplings.
Yeah, well, I don't know how many saplings are going to save you from an early death ray.
Right, so we have the completed picture, right? Mordekaiser still going to that top lane. Judging by the end of that one, going to be staring down on Ornn. Ornn's pretty happy into the matchup, from what I understand. You could just Bellows Breath away, the summon to the pits. So
Ornn will suffer
just a lot
in
of
the early
CC.
game. Ornn is going to suffer. Ornn will get one item. I imagine that item will be Force of Nature, because you're playing into effectively triple AP with a Kai'Sa.
Yeah.
So Ornn is going to suffer. Then Ornn is going to buy a Force of Nature, and then Ornn is going to be virtually unkillable.
Yeah.
That is how Ornn works in this game. He buys one item, and then life is great. Sunshine and
Get
rainbows
this, it gets
everywhere.
better later on.
Yeah, it only goes up.
It literally pays dividends.
Whereas on the side of this Mordekaiser, I'm looking at this Mordekaiser pick. You can't really ult the Ornn because you can just go unstoppable, like you mentioned. You can't really ult the Xayah either, because if you get anywhere near her, she just presses R.
Yeah.
And
There's
then
also plenty of peel.
Well, yeah, and I would imagine Xayah will have to pay QSS tax this game as well.
Yes.
So then you're only really looking at the Kassadin. But if you're Mordekaiser Ultigate Kassadin, you are not winning, or at least maybe you are. I don't know. I'm not good at League of Legends. I don't claim to be good at this game.
If we were good, we would be on these teams, right? You have
Yeah,
to put up with
exactly.
us, trying to bridge the gap.
Maybe Mordekaiser beats Kassadin in a 1v1. I haven't got a clue. I haven't seen Kassadin in about 4 years. When I think about Kassadin, I just remember season 3 when that season 4 when that champion was like 95% pick ban, and it was disgusting.
Yeah, and then they had to bring Rod of Ages back just for Kassadin and Rise, just to
make them relevant again. So I don't know how Kassadin's going to do this game. I don't want to say Kassadin's going to be the difference, but Kassadin could really be the difference.
He has a lot to wade through, right? I'm looking basically top to bottom of these compositions, and all of them kind of just bring CC, right? Like Kassadin and Kai'Sa kind of being the exceptions. I feel like they are, well, like father, like daughter, having to get in and around just about every piece of CC, multiple on pretty much all the remaining 4 members of the opposing team, right? It's going to be, I think, 5v5 brawls almost constantly. And if the game doesn't go that way, it's because early skirmishes were just won because somebody brought wall CC to the party first.
Well, on the topic of early skirmishes, I mean, the team with the Kassadin and 2 tanks as the top side does not win any early skirmishes against the team with Sejuani, Mordekaiser, Victor. Now, don't get me wrong, Victor does not want to get involved in these early skirmishes. He wants to sit back in the lane and scale just as much as the Kassadin does. But when you've got a Mordekaiser Sejuani as your top jungle, you're feeling pretty good if you have to take early fights.
Yeah, right. Mordekaiser being able to stack up the passive there as well for Sejuani, important that he's melee for that sake. Makes Ornn's life a little bit more difficult because he can only really sort of one.
Very much intrigued by the decision to put Worshipped on a Sejuani, though. Like looking down the OPGG, I'm seeing Kha'Zix, Jarvan, Maokai, Gragas, like a lot more of these kind of damage-oriented junglers. So just to see a Sejuani come out feels a little bit odd, but, I mean, he's better at the game than I am. Who am I to judge? The other things that are standing out to me as a little bit of a surprise is, again, actually, in the jungle, seeing the Maokai priority. I mean, there are some Maokai games there, but Udyr, Hecarim, standing out as the more played champions. The tanks for the Governor, not really that much of a surprise. As much of an Ornn enjoyer as I am, I would have loved to see the Camille. That would have been really fun.
Yeah. Sadly, it was banned, that one. But pretty much everything else that you mentioned has, of course, been available. So I assume both of these teams have had maybe scrims or something, and it is a case where they are very much focused on that team play more than it is individual standing out in that sense. That perhaps we were excited to see if we could have asked for it, right? Like the same kind of bloodbath, but probably still expecting a bloodbath, but just a different flavor.
Yeah, definitely. The bot lane matchup actually going to be quite interesting as well. Just to touch on that one, um, Xayah Thresh is quite a strong lane. You have a lot of positioning manipulation with the Thresh, so you can knock people into the feathers for the additional CC of the root there from the Blade Caller. So it'd be interesting to see if Kegler and Free iPhone can manipulate that to their benefit. Whereas on the other side, the Kai'Sa Rakan, you have so much mobility in that lane. I would be surprised to see Con or Ringo get tagged by these hooks. And there's a lot of trade damage in return if you're able to hit your knockup as the Rakan and just get the plasma stacking up. But again, we're going to see a 5-man group from the blue team to kick this game off.
I want to see if the artists get punished in this one by this one, who are effectively just line of scrimmage leaving a gap in that top side. Nothing comes with a 5-man stack, and they're just going to arrive a little late to their side of the jungle, but not that that matters, because no real action, which is a bit of a pity. You always get a bit of a knock in the stomach whenever you see 5 people stacked. Like, people don't going to go over at level 1.
Yeah.
I will make a note quickly of Ornn's choice of items, or rather lack thereof. So he can
I like this. I really like this. Because it used to be a strat. I think if memory serves, you used to be able to buy Doran's items with Ornn passive. I don't believe you can anymore. But this could be a refill pot start into an early null magic mantle.
Yeah.
Like clear the first wave, back off to your tower, buy a null magic mantle.
Yeah, 20
you're
MR,
then
you're happy.
Yeah, you're then having a much better time into the Mordekaiser than you otherwise would be. We are seeing the junglers starting on both of their red buffs, as we did in game 1. So going to be a lot of topside pressure coming through for the artists in the early game, which does favor the Mordekaiser, which you would expect.
Yeah, and as well, Worship getting off to a bit of a kickstart, receiving a leash, at least more than Mordekaiser did. So might be a little bit faster pace here for the artists. See what they can get done with it, because of course the pathing for the last game's jungle got quite wacky quite early, if you remember that one. So don't know if the same is going to happen here or if it's not, but I'm not going to put any chips on anything anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I definitely back that. I'm not going to want to bet on anything to happen in these games. You know what League of Legends can be like. But, you know, the Maokai keeping hold of his flash, the red side jungler not having to flash less than a minute into the game, definitely going to be beneficial for the Swans. And yeah, it's a relatively, stock standard, kind of quiet, calm early game. We are going to see the Ornn back off by the null magic mantle with the Forge. So yeah, good spot on that one. Hook lands.
Hook lands. Aftershock procs. Feathers coming back through. Just a bit of a tickle there for the lovers during the bot lane. Nothing too much coming of it, but it does prove that there is room in this bot lane. As you mentioned, right, there's a lot of tit for tat that can be had. Trades are going to be quite awkward, right? Because as I understand it, Thresh and Rakan are quite tricky, and that's a good cleanse earned there from Free iPhone. So maybe we got more action here than that as well if there was a hook.
Yeah, the Maokai's moving down.
A dead Ringo.
The Maokai's moving down here as well. There could be a potential dive if Leon wants to look for this.
Yeah. And with that control ward that Ornn started with at the Pixel Brush as well, I did catch that one. I did sleep on it for a couple seconds. But yeah, right, that's priority that Swans have, that they know. Bot side's clear, they know Sejuani is going to be top. Ornn's happy to play that weak side. He's got his mantle, and that means full pressure here for Xayah and the Thresh, and they're definitely working with it.
Yeah, definitely. We might see a play onto the mid lane, though. Kassadin, obviously incredibly vulnerable before that level 6 is reached. But I don't think Worship's going to be given an angle to punish.
No, yeah, Wishful hasn't got much hope in terms of his mana bar. So Futafox here, pretty happy to just kind of exist and try to keep par with this Victor. Is losing out in terms of health, is rocking the Conqueror, not the fleet that maybe you'd see in the past. So I don't expect much to happen in this lane, but unless the junglers get involved, like I said, not too afraid to bet on anything. I could see this going quietly. I could see this going loudly, one way or another. But for now, going quietly.
Yeah, I mean, the Kassadin obviously confident that the Doran Shield alone is going to provide enough sustain in this lane, not needing to take the fleet footwork, going for the Conqueror to try and invest in a little bit more late game power. So if that Kassadin is able to get to level 16, as we mentioned,
Yeah,
there could be a large amount of pain coming the way of the artists.
indeed, indeed. And of course, you might be able to deal with it. You have plenty of that CC and peel, so perhaps Mordekaiser could deal with it 1v1. I'm excited to answer that question. But for now, we're going to have the hold because the sixes are now beginning to come through. And this is the first point of the game where maybe we can begin to anticipate some action, regardless of where it ends up being. Drake's on the board as well. TP's invested into the lane. So we're starting to get past the slow talky bit.
Yeah, Rift Herald are going to be coming up in about 2.5 minutes as well. We'll be able to create another potential point of action as we're going to see free iPhone potentially being engaged on here.
Yeah, we have Leon in the vicinity as well as a 2v2 jungle support versus but Kegler. The first one here, Desire, see if she get feathers through the members.
The
a flash here
mid-laners.
away from Khan, flashing away first blood here for the Sejuani of all people, chasing over the jungle, but is now stuck in the Swan's territory in the nest, and there are eggs they're willing to protect, including that control with Khan, without a flash, unable to help Worshipped, and he gets preyed upon, and that is an exchange of kills.
Yeah, Sejuani finding the first blood there, and I think a little bit of an underestimation on the damage from the Sejuani stun there. Really, really coming through clutch on to Leon. The mid laners going for a little 1v1 there as well. Ult's thrown down. The Chaos Storm was burned by Wishful just to stop the Kassadin joining the fight. But now we see the Governor moving in.
Oh, and there's an Ornhorn there to support, and that is Flash ultimate there from Kassadin knocking down that Victor. And I said this lane could go quietly or it could go loud, and currently it's Kassadin cheering with the help of the horn being blown.
Yeah, and giving a Kassadin an early kill. We've all seen the Twitch copy pastas, 6 out of 16, Monka S. It's starting to get scary, even just off of XP, before you give the Kassadin a kill.
Scary indeed. Still fairly even in CS. Victor's not quite out of this one yet. Has now got the chapter to keep him afloat. So as long as Orn doesn't get any free passages like that one, should still be fairly happy in this lane until Kassadin maybe gets 11, right? Where things stop looking meager and start looking intimidating before it gets frightening at that 16, as you mentioned. So not all chips down here for the artists, but the Swans definitely getting a bit of plumage in the early.
Yeah, the Swans looking solid so far, and that's just kind of exemplified in this bot lane advantage. You know, both bot lanes roamed, and I don't actually think Ringo was part of that early fight.
No, I don't think so either.
Netted Kegler the kill, and there's still such a CS lead for Kegler in the bot lane for the Swans. But Dragon here being started up by the artists.
Yeah, Kegler half health here, so despite his advantage, not going to be able to utilize it fully as Fox here going in on Wishful Hopes. It could be a hope to get out. It does succeed so far, but it is Ringo chasing that one forward with the ultimate, is able to get Wishful Hopes that kill. Worship throws the thumbs up as they are able to get back to the dragon that they did so start up and killed back in favor of the victor. Mid lane neutralized.
Yeah, the artists really painting a picture of how they would like their mid game to look here. A kill onto your victor. A dragon is secured as well. And the Ocean Drake, whilst in isolation, none of the Drake's effects feel that great. Just the sustain in these lanes allows you to play a little bit more aggressive. You can step a little bit further forward as this Victor now, looking for poke, because you will passively regen up slightly quicker. Same thing with the Mordekaiser. You can be a little bit more aggressive onto this Ornn because you have that extra healing.
Yeah, it's just a lot more room and permission to do what you like within these lanes. First Drake, you're pretty happy with it. We'll see how this evolves as we have teams assembling here at the Rift Herald. The ultimate Nature's Grasp being spent lands here onto 3. Prevents the Ornhole unable to get the Unstoppable in time, but it's Sejuani being the one targeted for now. Worship getting chunked in the backside. We have Asphyxia trying to trade with the members, but it is the jungler here for the artist going down first, which means Herald secured and picked up by Leon. Swans looking happy with that one. There's a kill onto Raducan on the top side, and on the bottom half of this exchange, it is poor old little Mordekaiser by his lonesome, and he's not even in the shadow realm. He's going to knock back
really
out with
nice.
just so tastefully, and gets away with it too. So a win in the end.
Oh, wishful.
More
He's
wishful hopes. That might be what I'd call his chances of surviving their shutdown, and that's a 3-kill Kassadin in 10 minutes.
8 out of 16 Monka S. Kassadin really starting to get strong here. 3 kills in the back pocket. And already well on the way towards that level 11 mark. Absolutely catastrophic fight here for the artists. We were just praising them for the setup, for the play around the dragon, and then the Rift Herald goes as badly as it does. Leon, crucial interruption on the Governor's second cast of the Call of the Forge God. Really going a long way to influence that fight in their team's favor.
Yeah, and just going to exemplify the problems here. First items starting to come through. Kraken for the Xayah. I quite like Kraken first. I rate it above Stormrazor and whatever else that's going. Jack Show for Ornn, not really a surprise. Healthy and well-rounded. Rod of Ages for Kassadin at 10 minutes is a little bit spooky.
Yeah, that one's going to sting a little bit. When we hit the 20-minute mark, Kassadin going to get that extra free level. And at the current rate, but we're having a fight in the bot lane, so I'll let you take
feathers
over.
flying, Lantern pulling him away, but that's a win currently for the Ringo and Co. And he gets the cleanse, chasing down for more. Kickler able to create some space. It's Thresh taking the autos here from Ringo. Kaiser getting away for now, because as you say, Malcolm lives in flash.
Really
Hook
nice
going short of the target, but it is Kegler flashing forward straight into the frozen tombs of Sejuani, but it's not going to be enough. TP's coming through from all of the team of Swans here. They come flocking in. Kegler looking to get a couple more of these kills in his pockets and start really escalating it. It's Victor trading one underneath the tower. I did not even cover that one because I thought he was toast, but instead he is making butter of his opponents. But the Herald is about to make a slice of cake of this tower.
Yeah, Wishful managing to just about clutch up with the help of this bot lane at the tower. The tower going to fall on the backside of the engage. First brick going over to the Swans, as well as a whole bunch of kills. Wishful, I think you are being much more than that by hovering around here looking for any more potential gain. But no, it's looking very, very good for the Swans at this early stage. 3 kills on the Xayah, 3 kills on the Kassadin. The carries are getting strong.
Strong is certainly a word, and I feel like it is more than appropriate. I will quickly panerize to the CS, which is quite curious looking down in that mid lane. It's more of a gap than I expected, but I presume that's just from all of the skirmishing that's happening. And of course, Kassadin is quite happy with the results. As well, a point to mention that this rod will be fully stacked by the time that Baron hits the table, or like just exactly the right time as well, which is a little bit terrifying. I mean, we talk about this Kassadin a lot. We keep saying it's terrifying. I don't know how terrifying I'm going to feel when it gets their tier being stacked as well. But we can't underestimate this Xayah as well. 3-0, Cracker Slayer, as we mentioned, already on the way to the Noon Quiver. That's not the run. Not Quicksilver Sash. Oh, there's too many Navori Quick Blades. There's so many like Ks and Qs in the item slot these days. Navori Quick Blades on track here for the Xayah.
Yeah, and we're looking at potentially some members of the Swans here hitting 2 items before the artists even have 1. I don't know if that's because players haven't based or not, but yeah, it's starting to look a little bit rough if you are one of the artists. Near 5k is the deficit at 13.5 minutes. So we're going to see another engage coming through.
Yeah, looking to change their fate. They're going in here at the pit around the dragon, but it is ultimate spent. No one really dead yet. And as I say, it too instantly for the side of the artist, their blood being the instrument the Swans are painting with instead. They started the fight, and it is not in their favor.
Well, you know what the saying, like London buses, you wait for one of them for ages and then 2 come through at once. And that was just that team fight. Waited quite a while for the kill to come through, 2 instantly landing. And again, the Xayah and the Kassadin are the beneficiaries. The members of the Swans having the gold go exactly into the right places, exactly where they need it to go for these 2 late game carries. The gold lead now ballooning to about 6.5k.
Which for 15, 14 minutes work It's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, and we were talking about would the artists be able to maintain an unbeaten streak coming into this series. Right now, that it looks like they are going to need a bit of a miracle. The Swans really making a statement, really living up to that favorites tag that they have been given coming into this tournament.
I mean, for sure, right? And I feel like as this game is getting longer, looking at the Orn, it's just only really going to get harder foreseeably here for the artists. So, speaking of painting pictures, as you did that bit earlier, paint me a picture of how the artists staunch this game and then maybe even come back, or is that too far out?
Well, I don't think it's outside the realms of possibility when if we look at the levels as a prime example, we look at the Kassadin in comparison to this Victor. It is nearly a 30 CS lead for the Victor now over the Kassadin. It is a whole 2 levels in an advantage, and that is going to equate to a large number of stats. But if you are on the side of the artists, we're going to see another fight in the bot lane.
Yeah, we'll see if your analytics are correct about these levels. One of those levels being Gap, but is here worshipped, creating some space here for wishful hopes, and he is going to make that one out alive. Exchange in the mid lane as well. It's not going to matter. It's an Orn. Who cares?
I love the dancing. Just makes it that little bit sweeter.
Yeah, sending it home. Really got the Orn mentality as the Death Realm being propped here. Kegler looking to stare down the Unstoppable, is able to use the feathers flying over the slam and is slamming the Mordekaiser instead. So that name is horrible. Kegler goes down. The counter engages here. TP's being spent as well. Lantern here to bring in the Mordekaiser. Plus the Nature's Grasp. His Governor coming along with the Horn of the Forge God. Able flay out of the cone. And it is cleaning up again for the Swans. They got their feathers a little bit painty, but they wash it off no problem.
Yeah, really nicely timed Featherstorm by Kegler to keep himself alive in the 1v1, and then the team fight chaos ensued. Absolute madness there in the top lane, but again, a load more kills falling over to the Swans, a load more kills falling over to the carries, and yes, the shutdown was collected, but when you're losing a fight 3-for-1, does it really matter? Kills also falling into the right places for the artists, to be fair. Victor got 2. Kaiser has collected 1, but Mordekaiser, this lane that we thought may be able to dominate the Orn, really failing to live up to that pre-game expectation. And yeah, the Governor really maintaining that title for the top lane.
Yeah, as you say, right, he's been pretty healthily in command. CS lead, evident of that. Was able to even sneak into bot lane without really costing himself anything in that sense, and picked up a kill for that Kassadin, which has helped him bring life a lot to the Swans as they've played around the map, Kassadin being a big part of that. And then, of course, Orn being a contributor to that factor in the first place. So, of course, the Governor, definitely a healthy look here on this Orn, and of course, it's only going to get stronger from this point onwards. Almost at his second item, going to be completing some Masterworks in a couple levels times as well. Definitely a strong look in that top side.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on those Masterworks, actually, because can you imagine? Okay, and this is hypothetical because I really don't think the game is going to get this far.
Yeah,
looking at the current
I'm in my
state.
mind's eye.
So it's 40 minutes. You have a level 18 Kassadin with full build and an Orn upgraded Mythic. How much do you want to cry thinking about that? Or how much do you want to cry if you're on the enemy team and you see that in your solo queue games?
So in my mind's eye, I just see the artists, and they're basically sat there with their thing set up. What do they call it?
The canvas.
Canvas plus the fancy name for the stand.
The easel.
Easel, that's the one. It's like a weasel. I stuck on stoat. They're sat there with their stoat, and it's making this scream face.
Yeah.
At 40 minutes with a Masterwork Kassadin. That's what my mind's eye paints at that point.
Yeah.
So
that checks out.
We're almost 10 stacks for that Kassadin. We're at 11, so he's got the second upgrade for ult.
Yeah, as we're going to see Kegler.
He doesn't even care. Flashing on his opponent. Fair enough. I mean, you have the item difference. Why not? Why even wait for Kassadin to get 10 stacks on Rod of Ages?
No, you don't need to.
You just kill.
No, your doesn't matter. Your ADC could just flash forward, four-shot the enemy ADC.
I was not paying enough attention. There's a glacial prism being thrown, but nothing landing. Feather's going flying. Charms into the backline, however. Orno is the reply, and it is beginning to boulder these people down like Skittles, shut down all the way at the back. Rakan with the ignite kill. Sorry, yeah, Rakan dying to the ignite. Sorry.
That
It's-
no, it's not going to be Baron. It's too early for the Baron. But yeah,
sorry,
these
wrong.
fights are reeking of desperation at this point from the artists, trying to find any way they can scrap themselves back into this game. And it is just proving unsuccessful time after time after time. Kegler, a perfectly timed Featherstorm, dodging away
Yep.
from that glacial prison. And from there, you just let fly. It is a rain of pain coming through from the Xayah.
Oh, it's an ugly looking rain. As much as I would like it, I don't want that kind. It's been hot and warm and sticky here, and hot and warm and sticky is kind of what I describe the Swans as. They have been absolutely on fire so far this game. First Masterwork complete, 10 stacks on the rod for the Kassadin. And when your opponents are fighting out of desperation because you summon the Herald pre 20 minutes on their base turrets, they're forced to fight without their Kaiser. It's a very dominant look.
Yeah, it is important to note, though, to the artist's credit, they did manage to keep up the mid lane tier 3. The inhib tower did not fall, so that can provide them a little bit more security around their base. They also picked up the early Ocean Drake, so they're not facing down Soul Point this early on into the game.
Yeah.
Again, another positive we can take for them. And it's gonna be a case now of, can you get strong enough to a point where you can contest one of these fights? You don't have to look for the objective. Maybe you can give a Baron, you know? If you can if you can only give one, maybe two inhibitors, you can give away a Baron. Or you can give away the next Drake. It's not Soul. You don't really care that much.
Yeah.
Because of that early work they did, it now gives them options where typically in this kind of a deficit, you would have no options. Your only options would just be to either flip a team fight or passively lose the game. You don't need to care about giving third Drake.
It feels like they're looking at lesser devils rather than lesser demons, right? They're kind of min-max of worst case scenarios and like less worst case scenarios.
He might be caught here.
Could be caught here as well. Victor having to run across his gravity field, but the rest of the members are coming in on top of the Nature's Grasp. The Ornhorn knocking him down as well. Kassadin in the backside. That's your mid laner gone. So it feels like now maybe your choices are going to be taken from you, and it's one's getting what they want.
Yeah, that's just going to be Baron. Free iPhone picks up their second kill of the game onto the Victor. Just because they're losing a Baron doesn't mean they're going to lose the game. Kassadin going to find that mid lane tier 3. So righting the earlier wrongs of allowing that objective to continue to exist. Yep. Baron is going to fall. So now you're fighting into a level 14 Kassadin with Baron buff and a level 14, high level Swans team with a lot of gold on their carries and a Baron buff everywhere, decked in purple. Don't think I've ever seen a purple Swan before, but the Featherstorm going to come. Oh my god!
That's a purple Swan because Rakan is bruised and bloody at the amount of feathers pulled through him like that. Worship flashing away. Kassadin getting hooked into the team is not what you want to see. Asphyxia, the one getting choked out this time.
That's just game.
Diving the towers. I was about to ask you to paint our final picture, but it is Swans
there we go.
taking the blood. Take your screenshots. This is art being made of the artists.
You want me to paint a picture? The canvas is on fire. Needing to go back to the drawing board here for the artists. Going to start out this season with a defeat. But what I don't know. This was an incredibly strong look for the Swans. We talked about them being the favourites coming into this, and they've definitely proved why. An absolute statement game as they move to 1-0.
They are chasing that first place prize, and can you blame them with a performance like that they're the favourites at all? Grab a hose, the canvas is on fire, as well as the Swans. That was pretty much some of the action we asked for, right? We wanted it to be bloody and fast-paced, and God, was it fast.
Yeah, my word. That was a game. That was a game of League of Legends, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that
and all those in between. Christ.
Yeah, that was something else. When you pick Kassadin and you get early kills like that, that's what happens. This is what happens when you give Kassadin kills. And I know it wasn't just the Kassadin. We've got to big up Kegler on the
Yeah,
Zaya.
100%.
The one shot onto the Rakan, talk about betrayal. My God.
Yeah, and I don't know if the
One-shotting
broadcaster
that
can see the
Rakan.
damage, but I'll read it anyway. Kegler on the Zaya, 21k damage in 23 minutes. That's a lot. That's a pretty good DPM.
Quite a sizable amount of damage, yeah.
And the Kassadin, just over half that at 12, which is still like fairly respectable, right? So like,
Yeah.
I think that paints the picture, to overuse the tool that we have at our disposal, of just how maybe understated, I guess, I was about Kegler, because it felt like the action, even the directed camera wasn't ready for what Kegler was.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Kegler was on an absolute tear, and if we wanna look, I don't know, like look at this game from an artist standpoint, you can start like trying to think about what's gone wrong. You can look at it, you can start assessing what has happened here. How have we ended up like this?
Yeah.
And I don't know, Asphyxia, I don't want to take the low hanging fruit, but you kind of choked the lane here, man. How you're gonna slam the Mordekaiser B1?
First
They're
pick,
picking Ornn into you, and the lane plays like that. How is an Ornn able to find the space to be able to roam like that? I really don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of lost for words how that lane fell apart the way it did. But then translating that to the rest of the map, you then have to praise the governor for realizing and taking
100%.
advantage of the extra time, the extra space that he was given to then move and translate the advantage into the mid lane.
Yeah. And to be fair, we didn't really get the opportunity to see the Mordekaiser bring much else, because there wasn't really a target that he could happily bring into the death realm, right? We saw it into Kegler. He certainly feathers flew around all of the problems in that death realm. No QSS required. So it did feel like maybe not so much an issue with the play outside of permission to roam. The first pick Mordekaiser maybe isn't wise. Perhaps you want to give first priority to something in the bot lane where maybe they were struggling as well, because we saw early exchanges there. Cleanse burnt level 3, which wasn't ideal for the team, but it does feel like, because I think back to when artists were looking great, was that first dragon, right? They were able to throw the non-committal CC, catch out the Kassadin, and nobody else could really approach. But it was the skirmish after that where the Xayah was able to roam and maintain that CS advantage that wasn't punished. Kai'Sa unable to shove the wave, or really didn't commit to getting into the fight as well. I would love to go back and check if that was just poor timing in terms of back or coordination, something like that. But it definitely felt like the Swans were playing better as a team, but also maybe playing better as an individuals. So I think for me, I'm still excited for the artists now that they've lost a game, to see the catch up, to see them shake that off and show us the 7-0 artists from last.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, like you say, with that early dragon fight where they were able to secure that Ocean Drake, they got in the area first. They got control of the area. When you're playing a comp with a Victor, with a Rakan, with a Sejuani, was it Sejuani? Yeah, it was Sejuani. Yeah. You have so much zone control with the Gravity Well, with the Glacial Prison. And Rakan can just run round, find these flanks, using the pockets of vision that you are denying from the enemy team. And it just makes it impossible to walk in. And for that first Drake, we saw that, and then they didn't fall back to that way of playing for the rest of the game. And if they'd have managed to be able to stay in that kind of a play pattern, it could have looked so much better for them. It could have looked so much different. And maybe we would have seen a bit of a closer game. But I don't know. The Kassadin, the Xayah, they were completely unleashed.
Yeah.
And once they got an inch, they took a whole mile.
Well, the good news, if you're an Artist fan, is that next Monday we'll be able to see them again, this time up against Pirates, with some familiar faces over there with Gizmo, my old casting partner, as well as Legacy, a mutual friend of mine, somewhere in between, was also very successful. I remember talking to you about a Cogmog game. This guy is quite exciting to watch. So paired up with the Gizmo, I think I am excited to see, and we get, of course, to see the artists shake up and shape off against the Pirates for our next game there as well. So if you enjoyed today, come back next Monday, same time, same place. Thank you, Luke. If you have any final words before, if you're happy to wrap up, now's the time.
I mean, all I have to say is thank you for having me. It has definitely been a fun one, exposed me to a bit of a new league scene. I hope you've enjoyed having me Twitch chat.
Well, I've enjoyed having you at least.
Yeah, well, at least there's one person then. And as you can see on
I
the screen,
count as a person. Let's go.
as you can see on the screen, if you want to keep up with more of the stuff that I do, my Twitter's just down below. But otherwise, thank you for having me.
No, glad you've been here. I hope everyone's enjoyed it as much as the two of us have. I think we've both had quite the blast with today's games. So yeah, if you're excited for the artists and the Pirates, you can catch us next Monday at the same time for the Esports Wales is hiding behind me, I think, league. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Esports Wales, for having the two of us. And I hope you guys stick around to find out what happens.
Yeah.
Catch you next time.
See you later, guys.